Hi boys, hope you're all doing well and keeping safe. Thanks Jay for the nomination for the second lot of questions which Matty put together. And so the first one is, who do you support and why? As you can tell, I support Chelsea if you didn't already know. This stems back to probably when I was about 6 or 7 in school, is when I first started getting into football quite a bit. And the whole reason why I support Chelsea is due to a friend from school that I was quite close with. I used to go around to his house on the weekends and watch the football matches, and obviously him being a Chelsea supporter, obviously that would be the main one that would be on if it was live on telly. So obviously that's where it started. But also in my head, I didn't want to support a stereotypical team like everyone else of the age range, like 6 or 7, were just choosing Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal. I think that might have been just through parents' influences, and obviously with me supporting Chelsea, I went against my own family tradition of supporting West Ham, which obviously people would say that you're a glory hunter, but obviously this all leads to a good house rivalry and makes it quite enjoyable when each team plays each other. So a little bit more, the main reasons why I support Chelsea is sort of the Zola, Johnson, Hasselbank sort of time. So you're talking late late 90s, early 2000s. I just thought the three strikers, they were unbelievable ball control, football intelligence, and I just thought along with that goes the midfield and the defence, which okay weren't best technically, but they just put all into every game, and that nitty gritty sort of football which I think we play ourselves at Llany quite sort of appealed to me, and that's obviously why I support Chelsea. Moving on to first ever game I went to, like I said, to like early 2000s was sort of when I took an interest in football, and that's when obviously I went to my first game aged about 7 or 8, and it was actually a League of Wales game, which is now actually the Welsh Prem, and it would have been a game. It would have been Rill versus either. I can't think at the time whether or not Oswestry would combined with Lance and Fried at the time, but it was either Oswestry, Lance and Fried, or the two combined game that I went to see. I went to see a League of Wales game because over about 5 year period, I used to go watch quite a lot of League of Wales games with my dad and his best mate. The third question we've got written down here is first international tournament I remember. I don't remember the '98 World Cup. I remember the 2002 World Cup, and if I'm right in thinking, I remember watching one of the opening football match in the school assembly hall for some reason. I don't know why. I think they were just trying to promote like healthy living, so they decided to put the football on and try and encourage people to take on board more sports, not necessarily football, but obviously that being on, I think that kickstarted quite a lot of people to want to do more in sport. Things I can remember about the 2002 World Cup, I believe like South Korea were the first Asian country to finish sort of like fourth or higher in the competition from when it started. I remember Brazil ended up winning that. I think it was Ronaldinho's quick little lob over the top of David Seaman, which then put us out of the competition. The next one is first international tournament where you could buy a legal beer. I've gone with the 2010 World Cup. Even though I was 17, I was already drinking in town by then. I believe the 2010 World Cup was in South Africa. I remember the first match being really exciting and really good to watch, even though I think it ended up as a 1-1 draw. I just the atmosphere in the pub, and I assume it was even better in the stadium because I think it felt like South Africa had bought half the country to the stadium to watch that match. And one thing I can remember throughout that World Cup is after every match, I believe the South Africans would do some crazy dance towards the end and obviously cheer up all the fans and saying like thank you for coming and watching. On to the next question, which would be question 5. Is most hated team. I'm going to go with Spurs. I know they're not Chelsea's immediate sort of rivals, so to say, but I'm going to pick Spurs because I remember, obviously, looking back over time, over Chelsea's career, like Chelsea's existence. I know Tottenham had the better of us over the 1980s, but I think from like the 90s up until obviously mid 2000s, I don't think we actually lost a game against Tottenham. But the reason for my big hatred for Tottenham is I remember Chelsea playing Tottenham in an FA Cup tie where obviously I think there was a lot of trouble outside the stadium for whatever reason. I think because obviously Tottenham hadn't beaten us in like 28 years or something. So obviously there was a lot of commotion going on outside the stadium. I think people were stabbed, things were used as weapons, and then obviously following on from that, like I think in 2016, I think Spurs needed 3 points against Chelsea to challenge for the title against Leicester, and as soon as Chelsea started getting back into that game, I think Spurs just lost their head, and I think they ended up giving away about 20 odd fouls and ended up with 9 players on the yellow card. And God knows, if you guys have watched it, God knows how they didn't have several red cards and probably actually forfeit the game. But moving on to the next question, a player from that team that you wish played for your team. He still plays for Tottenham now. I'd love him in the Chelsea team now as an extra addition, and that's Son. I think his first touch is great. He's unstoppable speed with the ball at his feet, and I don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he scores 75% of his shot ratio that he takes, and I just think he'd fit into the current Chelsea side quite well because obviously he's quite versatile, and obviously it would give us a little bit of a break from playing either Tammy Abraham up front or putting him in the midfield. I think he would be great. Moving on to the next question, favourite player from your team now and in the past. So in the past, I'm not going too far back, and it's the player that sort of got me sort of thinking about supporting Chelsea and eventually supporting Chelsea, which is Zola. I think his ball control was unbelievable. His dribbling ability, which obviously aided with him not being so tall, so he had a lower centre of gravity. His vision and passing, but best of all, I think it was just his tactical intelligence. He just knew where his players were going to be, where he wanted to be, where he needed to be, and that's why he picked up so many vital goals in and around that sort of time where Chelsea didn't really have too much money going forward. And favourite player in the present team, I'm going to go with our longest serving player at the minute, which is Cesar Azpilicueta. I just think he lives and breathes Chelsea. He's versatile, play anywhere along the back four. I suppose you could even play him slightly forward in a midfield role if you needed to. I just think he's hardworking, he'll do anything for the team, and on that basis he gets the favourite player of the team right now. The next question is favourite player to never play for your club. Then I'm going to go with the good old Fat Ronaldo. I think sort of at his younger age of like say early 20s, I think his speed wasn't phenomenal, his endurance, just every skill possible, long balls, short passes, balls in between the defenders, and I think just his presence on the ball, and I think he was quite intimidating as a forward, so I wouldn't have liked to defend against him. I'll move swiftly on to the next question, which is worst ground you've ever been to. And mine is Villa Park. I just thought, compared to what it looks like outside, I just thought the inside was very, very small and crammed. I thought, with going to watch one of their games where they were at home, I thought like the fans would be proper up for it, but there seemed to be no atmosphere, even though sort of you're quite close to the pitch. And it just seemed like everyone was crammed into a small area, and I just didn't enjoy the vibe when going there. And the last question I've got written down is the best match you've seen that didn't involve your team. I've written down two. One from early 2000s and one from sort of the late 2000s, I believe. Liverpool versus AC Milan in the Champions League final. That was the first game I'd ever sort of watched and thought, wow, what an amazing comeback with sort of what was on the card, sort of like a Champions League final. So they needed to, it was do or die. So I think they just put everything into it and obviously ended up as champions. So, and the other one I've got is England-Greece with Beckham's 93rd minute equaliser to help us qualify for the Euros, I believe. I don't really remember much else about that one, but I'm going to have to go with AC Milan because it sticks in my head so much. Thanks for the nomination, Jay. I'm going to choose next. Let's go for Adam Biggs. All right, cheers, boys.